have not had an opportunity to hear our speaker this morning, you're in for a real treat. Angelo Caruso is one of the most entertaining speakers I've ever heard. I've had the pleasure of hearing Michael, well, probably about 10 times, and he always has me laughing and walking away in a great mood. So please join me in welcoming our speaker, Angelo Caruso.
Thank you very much, Linda. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Such a pleasure to be back. Some of you know that I had to be away last year, and you know why. I had a good excuse. I had a doctor's note. I was district governor in District 6380 last year, and it was my pleasure to serve. People are asking me if I'm relieved not that I'm no longer district governor. And I challenge them a little bit on their vocabulary. You know, we all have deep vocabularies. Relieved is not the exact word I would use. Released. I am released, but I am not relieved. And the reason I'm not relieved is I had fun, man. It was a blast being district governor. I don't know what everybody complains about. A little uncomfortable laughter from the incoming presidents because you're going through the same thing right now. There's a bit of anxiety about this. You know, I know how you feel that maybe you're not the right person for the job, or maybe it would be better if it happened at another time in your life, right? And I'm going to tell you something. Rotary never asks you to do something that you cannot do. I mean, if you remember nothing else from this weekend, remember that. We believe in you, and you can do it. In fact, this event, this Mid-South Rotary Pets, has churned out some of the finest presidents in the history of Rotary, and you're among an esteemed group of people. Give yourselves a round of applause. I have been honored to be a speaker at this event for many, many years. I think that's what Linda's referring to when she says she's heard me so often. And I'm always grateful for the opportunity to come and meet with so many new young leaders. I've been through a lot with Mid-South Pets. I of course, came to the other location many, many times, and I've been through a few AV guys in the back of the room. Glenn Vanderford, my old friend, who came to my district conference last year. Thank you, sir, for all the help and you've done for me through the years and making me feel comfortable. And Jerome's the new AV guy, so I like to say that Glenn was the analog age, and Jerome took us digital. That's how long I've been with your organization. It's good to see Mark and John. Mark, congratulations. John Germ has been a terrific mentor for me. He did me the huge favor last year and asked me to speak to my district governor class at International Assembly, and I'll never forget that, sir. Thank you so much. Also, Linda and Karen and, Karen, Floyd, and Ron, we're so glad you're with us. When I got on the plane to come here, I was reminded of one of the things that I really enjoy now in my PDG status. I'm much more appreciative of something that I've been practicing my whole life, but I never really gave a lot of attention to it, and that is psychology and how important psychology is. And now I find psychology, I'm using it all the time. Of course I use it in my job. I teach leadership training, I do sales training, I open a lot of conferences like this, right? And psychology is really important in leadership and sales. But everybody uses psychology, and sometimes psychology can work against you. And so we'll talk a little bit about some examples of this, and because I want you to be successful. That's the whole reason we invited you to this weekend. I was getting on the plane, and I may be one of the only people that flew to this event. Well, just a few of us have flown. But they always ask you a question before you board the plane. You know, the TSA agent kind of looks at you with this jaundiced eye, and he or she says, has anyone put anything into your luggage without your knowledge? It's an interesting question, isn't it? And already psychology's at play. Like, is this guy trying to outfox me or what? What kind of question is that? Did anyone put anything into my luggage without my knowledge? So I decided to get a little cheeky on this particular trip out, and I said, well, if it was without my knowledge, how would I know? And then he said, that's why we ask. and he trumped me, man. I thought I had him. And that's how psychology works sometimes, you know. So I got on the plane, and I fly a lot. I have 1 million miles just on one airline, and I got on the plane, and I'm sitting in the aisle seat, which is where I like to sit. I get preferred seating because of my status. I know the plane's full because I asked the gate agent, and I know that somebody's going to sit next to me on the plane. So I'm in the aisle seat, and there's somebody here sitting in the exit seat, and the guy, I hear my seatmate before I see him because, you know, he was on his phone, and people talk loudly on their cell phones. Have you noticed this, yeah? You're nodding your head. Why do people talk louder on their cell phones than they do in person? You know, it's so annoying, and I used to be, like, seriously irritated by this until I realized you can learn a lot of personal information about people just by paying attention to their personal calls. You know, they don't mind, apparently. So this guy gets in my aisle, and because he's on his phone, he can't do the right thing with me, which is what, you know, we want presidents to do in the office. We want you to observe etiquette, and we want you to be polite, and we want you to act presidential, right? And presidential means eye contact, good communication, never be rude with people, right? But he's busy, he's distracted, so he abandons all the traditions, right? And he gets to my row, and he's on his phone, and he goes like this. He goes, to me. Which means you got to get up so I can get in my seat. And the reason he's on the phone with a child, and he's saying goodbye to the child. I picked this up right away. And so I get up, and while I get up, I'm watching him. He's got a bag that goes in the overhead. He's got a bag that goes in down below, and both of the bags have a luggage tag of a Michigan manufacturing company, and I recognize the name of the company. I don't say anything because he's on the phone, and he sits down, and now he's saying goodbye to a second child that does not want to say goodbye to Daddy. I don't have any children, but I'm feeling for this guy. By the time they're getting ready to close the boarding door, he's saying goodbye to a third child who is screaming into the phone so loudly I can hear the kid from my seat. My heart is melting. And finally he says, it gets so bad, the kid's screaming, and the flight attendant comes over to give my friend a dirty look, right? You got to shut off the phone, sir. And so he actually has to hang up on his own child who is crying. Terrible thing. And he finished, he hung up the phone, and he does a big sigh as if the weight of the world is on his shoulders. And I turned to him and I said, Daddy's leaving home, huh? And he said, oh, you were listening. And I said, how could I not? And he said, yeah, my kids do not like it when I leave home. And I said, well, how often do you have to leave home? He says, well, I'm a sales manager at a company. I travel all the time. I'm gone sometimes 15, 18 days a month. And I said, oh my gosh, that's got to be hard. I said, is that the company you work for, the tag that I just saw in your luggage? He said, you're very observant. I said, I know. He said, yeah, that's my company. And I said, you're the sales manager. I said, and you have to leave your kids behind. I said, what are your kids' names? And he said, well, we gave them S names, Sandy, Sally, and Scotty. And I said, how old are they? And he said, well, they're 5, 6, and 8. And the 8-year-old Scotty was the one who was crying the loudest. Isn't that something? And I said, well, why do you have to travel so much? Because these days, a lot of people, you know, they're working from home. You can do conference calls, that kind of thing. Why do you travel so much? And he said, I've got to go into the field to make sure my people are working a full day. And then he got a strange look on his face, and he looked at me like this. Can you see? And he says, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. That's an interesting expression, isn't it? I didn't get your name. And the reason he has this expression is because he's suddenly uncomfortable. You see, he suddenly realizes he's given me a lot of personal information. I now know the names and ages of his children. I know how often he travels. I know what he does for a living, and I know his biggest problem at work. He knows nothing about me, and it's time to play catch up. So he says, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. So I hold out my hand first because I know in psychology, the person who holds out his hand first has influence in any interaction. Are you writing any of this down? Because when people come to your clubs, they want to meet the president. But most presidents don't go meet everybody in the club. Why is that? Oh, you're busy with your PowerPoint. You're talking to your chair that you couldn't get a hold of last week. So you got all these visitors in the room wondering what's going on. And then when it's time to ring the bell and begin the meeting, you just start talking. You don't even tell people you're the president. Oops. So I recommend when you ring the bell, a big smile on your face before you ring the bell, big smile, because everybody's going to look at you when you ring the bell. And you say, good morning, everyone. My name is Angelo Caruso, and this year I'm proud president of the Troy Rotary Club of Michigan. Welcome. And you begin every meeting, 50 of them, like that next year. Your club will tease you. We know who you are, Michael. But you're not doing the introduction for the club. You're doing it for the visitors to the club who will not come back if they are too disoriented about how you do business. Right? Are you writing this down? We're at a convention to have you have leadership skills. The program has started, ladies and gentlemen. So my friend on the plane says, I'm sorry I didn't get your name. And I hold out my hand because I know the person who holds out his hand first has influence in any interaction. And I said, my name is Angelo Caruso. Now, my name by itself is an elevator speech. Would you agree? My name is Angelo Caruso. He says, that's a fabulous name. He says, what do you do for a living? And I said, well, I teach sales managers how to get their people to work a full day. He says, wow, can I have a card? The lady in front of us says, I want one too. And that's how you work a room, ladies and gentlemen. You can do this, yeah? You know, people want to know who you are. They want to be part of what you've got going, especially if you have good energy, especially if you're a good person, and especially if you're involved with something really strong like Rotary. So this psychology thing is everywhere, and I was reminded of it when Richard Thaler from Chicago won the Nobel Prize for Economics recently, and this was a big non-starter. In today's news world, this was on page 10 of the newspaper, right? But Thaler won the economic prize for something very, very unusual, and what he won for was his theory of economics. And even you can understand it. Even I can understand it. It's not technical. Thaler's brilliant, man. Thaler said, here's my, you know, you have to like submit a proposal to win the Nobel Prize, and here's his proposal. He says, here's what I think. He says, I think that all of our economic models are predicated on people acting rationally. And he says, that's incorrect, because people are not rational a lot of the time. And they gave him a Nobel Prize for it. And you would too, right? I mean, nobody's rational all the time. We do irrational stuff all the time, like put in for club president. I'm just kidding. You could do it. But you'll see irrational behavior in your club all the time. It's bizarre, you know, the stuff that happens in Rotary sometimes. No wonder we have trouble explaining ourselves to visitors, you know? They ask us questions, psychological questions now. They want to know if they're a good fit, right? They know we're a good organization. We've been around over 100 years. They want to know if we're a good fit for them. And so they ask us questions. And they're good questions, everybody. You've probably heard some of them. People say, what's Rotary? I tell people, well, we're above religion. We're above politics. They love that. Being above politics today, they love that. That's a bonus, right? And when people are confused, they don't do anything. It's the #1 rule in internet marketing. If you've got a bunch of things to click in your email, they get confused and they click nothing. Same thing on your website. Same thing on your Club Runner or DACDB page, which is marvelous, by the way. All the information, all the clickable links. How fun. Which one do I click first? Gary Vee and a lot of these marketers now, they have a thing on their button, a button on their website says, first time here? and it's in red. It stands out. It doesn't even fit with the design of the page because they want you to click that one first, and that's how they get you to do it. Psychology, right? Really important. So I'm a big fan of Richard Thaler. I'm rooting for him because I understand his economics. I don't understand a lot of the other ones. So you have two main problems, ladies and gentlemen, as you get ready to be president. The first one is, write this down, is identifying talent in your district. Identifying talent within your district. Now, some of you say, Michael, that's not true. We have a lot of talented people. They've been running the show for years. And that's part of the problem, isn't it? You have problems if people are doing the same thing every year because two things. One is eventually those folks are going to run out of ideas and then you're going to get the same old events. Am I right? You can't just keep pulling a rabbit out of a hat, ladies and gentlemen. You eventually play all of your cards and that's the best program that person's going to put on. That's why we limit terms of service in Rotary. You're only supposed to be foundation chair for, I think, 3 years. Right? And then we get somebody else into the position. Our district treasurer last year was treasurer for 14 years. And I moved him along. And I said, thank you for all your years of service. You were fantastic for us. And it's time to let another talented Rotarian enjoy the experience. Isn't that true, Mark? What's he going to say? He said, thank you very much, Mr. Caruso. Oh, he was pissed. I did not get a Christmas card from Mark. But our district became a better district. And Mark is now, and we invited Mark to be part of another thing now in the district. So you have to move people along. The second thing that happens when, in addition to this problem of people staying on too long and you get the same old events, is you don't get that fresh talent bubbling up. And that's your biggest problem as a PE, is finding out who that bubbling under talent is, because they're not readily visible. You have to go find them. And people say, well, eventually they'll uncover themselves to me. Yeah, they do during your club visits, 3 months into your term, when it's too late for you to enlist them to do anything. So this is the number one thing, is identifying talent. The second problem is that is acting presidential. And again, it's a psychology piece, right? Because you've been a member of your club for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, in some cases 6 months. Now you're going to be president, and you're like, well, I've never been president before. How do I act? And everybody's telling you you'll be president on July 1st, so you just walk around like your normal self until July 1st, and then on July 1st you think, well, I'll have this transformation, and everybody will start listening to me because I'm president. Good luck with that. That's like working in a place for 4 years and then getting promoted to supervise your own peers. How do they treat you? The same way, they're like, you're not my boss. Yes, technically I am now. But they can't get their head around it because of the psychology. Some of you are nodding your heads, you've been there. So it's interesting. So that's the first thing, you have to act presidential. The second thing you have to do is you have to start using all of your tools, all the tools that are available to you. And I want to tell you that you should start using the internet. You should start using technology more. You know, the internet's going to be around for a while. You should start using Facebook. And I know what some of you are going to say. Michael, I'm not a Facebook person. Or, you know, Facebook's been invented for 11 years now. I've done without it okay up until now. I don't feel like I need to be on Facebook. I'm not giving you a choice. In fact, I posted in my district a while back, if you're going to be a good, strong club president, you have to be on Facebook. Oh, I got some pushback, man. But think about what happens if you're not on Facebook. You're the club president. Whose face is showing up on your club page more often than you now? Is that in your benefit, to your benefit, that somebody else looks like they're running the club? You know. And you can say, I'm not a Facebook person, and I'm okay with that if you're not a Facebook person. But if you were running a business, right, and Twitter was really important to your business, you wouldn't stay off of Twitter because you're not a Twitter person. You'd stay competitive. You'd stay in the race. You'd keep your hat in the ring. So I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal. If you don't want to be on Facebook, it's certainly your prerogative, but you should get somebody to give somebody your password to your account so they can post on your behalf. And some of you are thinking, what would I post? How about thank you to your team members? Which is a pretty good thing to do all the time. Every club meeting, you want to say thank you to somebody in the room. And I used to use visual triggers way back when I was club president. I'm sitting down and say, there's so-and-so, and he's doing a great job on such and such. Give them a round of applause. And it turns out people really like the sound of their names. Psychology, it's their favorite word, right? And they really like getting a shout out. They like two kinds of shout outs. They liked it when I called them in person to tell them when nobody else was listening, because that was a different type of feeling, and that some of them really liked it when I did it in front of other people. Some of them like both ways. That's good. So these are just some tricks that we use. Another thing you need to look at is what to change in your club. You know, some of you will think, well, and I've heard this from presidents. Presidents say things like, silly things, I think. Psychologically, it's silly. I heard a president, many presidents say this. I'll say, are you excited about being president of your club next year? And the person says, well, not really. I was kind of forced to do it. Now, you say that enough time, you know, you start to feel like a hostage. Yeah? And they say this is kind of strange. I say, well, what are your plans? You know, what do you have in mind? I've asked this at Pets. I'll ask you this weekend, you know, what do you have in mind? And people say, you know, I haven't really thought about it yet. I'm like, you're kidding. You know, it'll be here before you know it. It's probably a good idea to start thinking about it. And my favorite one of all, I say, well, you know, what do you got going? What do you think is going to happen? Well, my plan. And they always lean in like it's the first time this has ever been uttered, right? I've heard it 1,000 times, 1,000. They lean in, they go like this. They go, well, my plan is just to not do anything to actually kill the club. That's my plan. And then they elbow me like it's the funniest joke ever, you know. But I think they're part serious, which is scary, you know. Come on, you got goals bigger than that, right? And goals are numbers, ladies and gentlemen. We love numbers because numbers don't lie, right? I hear this all the time. We grew our membership last year. Really? What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Or they say we had a successful fundraiser. We go year after year after year with this kind of pablum. We had a successful fundraiser. I have no idea what that means. And people say things like, they say, another good one is, we raised $10,000 at the fundraiser, $10,000, and I'll say net or gross, and they get this confused look on their face, because there's a big difference between net and gross, right? And if you raise $10,000, that's great, but if you spent $8,000, you know, you're not going to get any extra credit for that. So numbers do not lie, and if you have goals for your club and you want to grow your club, we've got to hear what's called the baseline number. Where are you at right now, and where do you want to be, and how do you bridge that gap? How are you going to do it? And that's what the breakouts are about, teaching you some techniques for doing that. But work on those numbers, baseline and so on. You know, back to psychology, I've actually Googled all of the psychological biases. Do we have any psychology people in the room? Anybody study it? Yeah. Oh, and they're all sitting together. Except you. You need to move over there. Biases. Just Google a cognitive bias in Wikipedia, and they all come up. There's pages of them. My favorite example is called the optimism bias. Can you guess what it is? The optimism bias is you're always optimistic, even though it's not in your best interest. Even though things are never going to work out, you've convinced yourself everything will be fine. You're delusional. Another one I like is the pessimism bias. You saw that one coming, didn't you? The pessimism bias, you know what this is that you convince yourself everything's going off the cliff, and you tell everybody things are going off the cliff, and then nothing bad happens, and then you look like a paranoid idiot. And here's my favorite part. You can have, psychology people, you can have optimism bias and pessimism bias at the same time. Isn't that true? And that's freaky. I mean, it's confusing to people, right? But my two favorite biases so far, I'm just getting into the list now. I'm going to have some fun with this at speeches and on my blog posts, all this kind of stuff. But my two favorite biases so far is something called the confirmation bias. Raise your hand if you've heard of the confirmation bias. It's a pretty popular one among the shrinks and stuff. Confirmation bias works like this, is that you are so convinced that you're right about something that you stop listening to other ideas. Very true in politics today. We're so divided as a nation, right? So some people are just so convinced about the way it should be that they can't even stomach listening to somebody complete a sentence from the other side. Terrible way to be. Confirmation bias. And my other favorite bias is blindside bias. Blindside bias is my favorite. It's kind of self-explanatory. But blindside bias is one of my favorites because here's the definition of blindside bias is you have a weakness, you have an Achilles heel, right, that you don't know you have. And even if I tell you you have it, you'll deny it. Why? Because you can't see it. Other people will tell you, this is your thing, this is what you need to do. And you're like, no, I'm good, thanks, you know, and you go out with your year. And about 4 months in, 5 months in, you'll say to yourself, oh my gosh, those people that were telling me that were right. How did they know that about me? They didn't even know me that well. But that's how it works. So don't let psychology get the best of you. I love being back in Tennessee because there's so much history down here, you know. I watched the Ken Burns, we were talking about this last night at dinner, the Ken Burns Civil War series a while back. And I was just taken by how brutal the war was and how much the war meant to the southern states in particular. You know, and I always think about that when I come down south and we were talking about the battle sites that are around here. And, you know, if you go back far enough in history to our first president, club presidents, George Washington. First president, wrestled with all this stuff, even before it was invented. Confirmation bias, blindside bias, change. Washington wrestled with change in a huge way. Remember what happened? Everybody gets on a boat, they come over from another country to escape the tyranny of Britain, right? And they get here and they're setting up shop, right? And what's the first impulse of all the people that are setting things up? We got to set this up like a monarchy. Why? Because that's where they just came from. To escape, right? And they're thinking, because they had a debate. Should we make him a king or a president? This is an ongoing debate for a long time. In fact, Washington was called the king president for a long time. He was like hyphenated. And bizarre stuff back in the day because you only work with the information that's available. That's why it's so important that you find out how people are succeeding in Rotary and model the successful ones. Do not model average. If you model average, you will be average. If you want a successful fundraiser, if you want to net $40,000, listen to me, net $40,000, you have to disregard all fundraisers that have raised $10,000. You have to say no to the car wash, people. And that's how my club got into a wine tasting that in its second year netted $33,000. It was our biggest fundraiser in over a decade. But we had a target on the wall and we aimed at the target. And it's important. You have to do this. So Washington, when he was not doing well, he was older, he was dying. They didn't know he was dying, but it turns out that's what he was doing. And they called in the best doctors in the territory to look at him because he was the king president. And the doctors examined him in whatever way they could back in the day. You can imagine they had very little diagnostic tools, very little knowledge about the human medical system. And they said, yeah, we're going to have to use our best technique on the president. They keep telling the advisors now about what they're about to do. There's only one technique that can save him. It's our best shot. It's called bloodletting. You know what this is, right? And the theory was back in the day that you've got so much bad blood, you've heard that phrase, bad blood, that we have to let some of it out. Well, we have to let a lot of it out. It's very dangerous. But the theory of the day was if bloodletting doesn't cure you, nothing will. He didn't die for bloodletting, he died from other things, but this is the thing, right? If bloodletting is all you know, then that's what you do. Isn't it true? And presidents, next year, not only do you have options to try new stuff with your club, you have an obligation to try new stuff with your club. We don't want you to be the same president as last year. We want you to be a lot better, not marginally better, a lot better. And there's only one way to do that. You have to change stuff. You have to change assignments and titles. You have to change programs. You have to introduce new ideas to the club. And guess what? people aren't going to like it. No, they're not. When I did my governor visits, I haven't told this story much, but when you go on governor visits, you learn a lot about Rotary that make you feel good. And you learn a lot about Rotary that makes you sad. Because you really get under the hood and you start to find out some of the serious problems that some clubs have, challenges, right? You can overcome all of them, but people are struggling, and it's sad. And the people, I would meet with the people, and they would be down in some of the smaller clubs, challenged clubs, down in the dumps like this, and tired. I met one club visit, and the president's like this at the table, and the vice president's like this. I was getting depressed, and they said, well, what should we do? Mind you, they've been through this with the last 6 district governors. Been like this for a long time. What should we do? And I said, well, you look tired. And they said, what? Because they're expecting me to motivate them, right? I said, you look tired. And they said, what do you mean? Well, you got your hands in your head. There's no light in your eyes. It doesn't seem like Rotary is fun for you anymore. I said, I think you should fold the club. And you could hear the chins hitting the table. Boom, boom, boom. All of them hit the table. And they said, what do you mean? You're the governor. You're supposed to be motivating us. And I said, yeah, but you're not motivatable. I mean, you're done. I learned this from John. Because John's smart. John says, we got to stop dancing around our problems. We got to speak truth to power. Right? The power was the presidents in the room that day. And I said to them, you look tired, and if you don't have the goods anymore, fold into the 3 options we offer you. We offer you options for this. You can fold into another club. You can present a plan to resurge your membership, or you can give up the ghost. Those are your 3 choices. Those have always been your 3 choices, Dorothy. Right? But who's going to be the president or the governor to tell the truth? And look at numbers and say, these are our numbers the last 5 years. And this is where we're at, people. Who's going to do that? Is it you or the next guy, the next gal? It can be you. You can do this. And if your club is flagging, you can turn your club around. It's doable. But you have to change stuff. You with me? We're going to do a deeper dive on this when I do my breakout later this afternoon. I don't remember the room or the time, but you can find it. I'm going to do a giveaway. I'm going to give away some products. I always ruminate about this, that we go to these conferences, and I'm not speaking disrespectfully about Mid-South Pets, because there's great content and great leaders, great teachers among us, but we never mention business books, and we never mention outside sources, and I don't know why that is. It would be really refreshing if somebody got out in a breakout and held up a business book that they read and said, here's a takeaway that applies to Rotary. That would be good. So I read the Ray Dalio book, which is a huge book. Anybody read it? 450 pages. He ran the most successful hedge fund in the history of civilization, this Ray Dalio. It's a big book, 450 pages. I read so you don't have to. And Ray Dalio says in the book, he says that if you haven't done it, this is what the rule at Bridgewater, if you haven't done it, or you can't prove how to do it in writing, we don't have to listen to your idea. I read that and I'm like, that sounds like John Germ talking there. If you haven't done it, or you can't prove in writing how to do it, we don't have to listen to you. Is that how clubs operate? No, it's the opposite. In clubs, one person raises their hand, you're so glad to get a volunteer, you say, great, let's do it, let's roll with it. No due diligence, no fact-finding, no checking with other people to see how they do it. Y'all going to have a district conference soon and a club event, an annual club event. I love it at district conferences when they pull all the top-performing clubs up on stage. You've been there. Raise your hand if you've been to the district conference. You've seen the awards. You have the awards in Tennessee, Alabama, Kentucky. And they bring up the club that had the most membership growth all year. It's a big deal. And they might even give you the plus, like plus 12, plus 6, whatever it is, and then they shake the person's hand, they take a photo, and they usher them off the stage. They never, ever, ever tell you how they did it. This blows my mind. Worse, this person is having cocktails with you later, and you don't go to find them and say, hey, we want to grow our membership. You've already done it. What's your secret? He's in the room with you all weekend. So all these ideas, all this great information is hiding for you in plain sight, and I think that you can take advantage of it. So I'm going to give away some books that you can take back and audio programs. And we'll do it with like a business card drawing if you care to. I'm going to give away I have a new book out, everybody. It's called Work Hacks. They're shortcuts. Psychology, right? So I was going to call it Shortcuts, Work Shortcuts. And we did what's called a split test on the internet. We did A/B test to see which tested better. And Shortcuts won by a landslide because I was asking people my age. I'm going to be 60 next year. And people were, so I asked a lot of older people, right? And hacks, when we grew up, was a bad word. But hacks to young people is hip and cool and legitimate. Google up hacks, and you'll see all kinds of cool, legitimate ways to do shortcuts. So I named it hacks because it's for younger people. It's for people that understand what hacks are. I also have Present Like a Pro, which is a world-class speaker training. You're going to give 50 speeches next year, 50 more than you gave last year. And how you mobilize the troops in your club is going to be defined by how you message. And it only comes across in 2 ways, verbal and nonverbal signals, right? And almost everybody in the room could be better at speaking. I always say speaking is a lot like driving. Most people think they're pretty good drivers, and there are a lot of dented cars on the freeway. And also my Whom booklet. Now, I'll sign the books for you if you want outside the room. So we'll do a little giveaway. Get out your business cards quietly, and I'll trade you your email address for a chance to win. Could we have somebody, raise your hand if you're in this corner of the room, just one person. Thank you, sir. In the back corner, raise a hand. Great, thank you. Back corner, this over here. And if we just have one person from each corner of the room, sweep through and collect the cards. We'll do the drawing in just a second. I want to have some fun right now. I want to have the... everybody in the room that is over, if you are over 60 years of age, I want you to stand up. If you're over 60 years of age, stand up. Excellent. These are the heart and soul of Rotary. Stay standing. They've been in Rotary a long time, many of them. Have served us ably, given a ton of money. Thank you so much. A round of applause for the over 60 crowd. Thank you. If you are 60 or under, please stand up. 60 or under. Who are all these new people? Look around the room. Don't look at me. Look around the room. This is interesting. If you are under 50 years of age, remain standing. If you're under 50, 50. Some of you having trouble deciding. If you're under 40 years of age, remain standing. I do this exercise all over the world. I spoke in Bangkok recently. I was in Honduras. I was in I'm going to Great Britain again in the fall. And I love doing this exercise because people always say, well, we don't have any young people. And they're in the room with you. They're just quiet. Where are we at, 40? 40. If you are, so you're all under 40, is that true? If you're under 35, remain standing. Ah, under 35. I love this because we're discovering talent. We're uncovering talent right now. These are the people I was talking about earlier. They're with us. If you're under 30 years of age, remain standing. If you're under 30 years of age, come join me in the front of the room. Give them a round of applause. Come up here. Let's line up here at the stage. That would be great. I'm going to meet you, interview you quickly, find out who you are. Because I think we should give this new talent the spotlight. I think we should uncover them. And again, no disrespect to our great leaders in the room, but you know, the only people you hear talking at these events are the guest speakers and the senior village elders. Isn't that true? So this is your time, people. Come on up. Come on into the light. Beautiful. Wow, great. Hi, what's your name?
Ricky Statham.
Oh, sorry.
Ricky Statham.
Ricky, what club are you in?
Aniana, Alabama.
Great. And tip to all the presidents, stop just talking about Rotary with people. These are human beings, ladies and gentlemen. So you ask them human being questions. Are you married?
Yes.
You have children?
Yes.
Fantastic. How many kids do you have?
I have one little girl and one on the way in July.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's a boy already.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. They don't really care,
No,
Ricky,
they don't.
but they applauded because they've had children. It's an achievement. It's a bonding thing, that little question. True. What do you do for work?
I'm a librarian.
Very good. Don't usually get a round of applause for that.
Yeah, you have to be quiet in the library. You have to be really quiet. So
this is really outspoken for you.
yes.
Okay, very good. Hi, what's your name?
I'm Caitlin Van Meter.
Hey, Caitlin, and what club are you going to be president of?
I'm the Grayson County Rotary Club in Kentucky, 6710.
Does this warm your heart? Is it just me? Does this warm your heart? What do you do for work?
I'm actually a certified para-optometric technician. I work for an eye doctor.
Why didn't you just say that?
Because I have a title and I like to use it.
It's an impressive title. You know, talk about, we got some cameras here. Wave to all your fans. I love the psychology of it. So step forward here for a second. So if we said to you, what do you do for a living? Just give us the first one again.
Certified para-optometric technician.
And now just give me the second title. What do you do for work?
I work for an eye doctor.
You do see how you could use those two titles in different ways with different types of people.
Yes.
Okay, you want to use the first one with Delta.
Yes, I do, always.
Okay, very good. And family?
Yes, I'm married.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We wish you well. Hi, how are you, Brooke?
I'm great. How are you?
Great. Brooke Hemphill, is that correct?
That's right.
What club are you going to be president of?
Arab, Alabama.
Oh, cool. Step up so everybody can see you. How long have you been in Rotary, Ricky?
Less than a year.
Not sure what to say. Good luck. How long?
Less than 3 years.
Less than 3 years. How long have you been in Rotary?
I just had my 2-year anniversary.
Okay, happy anniversary. What do you do for work?
I am the assistant at the Arab Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, I love it. So you're about hospitality and inclusion, this kind of thing.
That's my thing.
Yeah, I love this. I love learning what people do for work because this is what they do 2,000 hours a year. Now we're discovering hidden talents, right? I don't know why in DAC-DB and Club Runner we don't customize the fields, right? What's the hidden talent? All you see is a classification, if that. I tried to get people in my district to tell me what year they were born. I got this. Confidential. Privacy issues. They said, why do you want to know, Michael? I said, because if we know who the younger members are, we can cater to them, create events for them. All the senior people said, why can't you treat everybody the same? I'm not kidding. This is what we're up against, ladies and gentlemen. We got past it. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, step forward, Molly. Is that your real name, Molly Friend?
Yes. Yes, it is.
My mind is alive with one-liners. What's your middle name?
Well, it's going to get more complicated because Molly's actually my nickname. So I'm Mary Claire.
Okay.
Yeah.
But your last name is Friend, F-R-I-E-N-D. Do you ever spell it wrong? Because I do.
No, I don't.
I before E, except, never mind. What do you do for work?
I am an employee of Rotary International. I work for our programs for young leaders, supporting Rotaract, Interact, and RILAB.
Oh, fabulous. Very good. Wow. Do you have big plans for your club next year?
I have big plans for all of your clubs next year.
That sounded vaguely threatening. Juria. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. What a beautiful smile. What is your name?
My name is Juria Martin.
Juria Martin. That's a beautiful name. And what club are you about to be president of?
Historic Selma, Alabama.
All right. That's a good adjective, historic. I like it. What do you do for work?
Well, I actually run a federal grant out of the executive office of the President of the United States.
That's more complicated than the eye doctor title. You run a federal grant. Say that again?
Yeah, I run it's a 5-year federal drug-free grant out of the executive office of the President of the United States.
How did that happen? How did you get that?
Dallas County, where Selma's in, actually received the grant through the Dallas County Children's Policy Council, a $650,000 grant, and I was hired to head that grant.
Fabulous. You were hired to head the grant for the president.
Yes, sir.
You know, he's letting a lot of people go. You have family?
My ministry, I'm a minister, and so I always like to say I have 20 kids, all the kids in my youth ministry.
Good for you. I love your smile. I'm sure you're a good person. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, step forward here. What is your name and what is your club?
My name is Jennifer White, and my club is the Nashville Sunset Rotary Club.
Nashville Sunset Rotary Club. Very good. Are you one of those drinking clubs?
Yes.
You know, Jennifer Jones's husband, Nick Krasich, says that they're a drinking club with a service problem.
We can relate.
We wanted to know more about you because we don't have enough data points yet on sunset clubs and cocktail clubs and all this kind of thing. Things going pretty good?
So far, so good. We have landed on a new-ish location. Doesn't have a minimum, which is good for a young, small club. So we're enjoying their happy hour specials.
Very good. Well, we want to learn. Okay. We'll see you in the bar after the day. Hey, Colby, step over here. How are you, sir?
Good, how are you?
Michael Caruso, nice to meet you. You are?
My name's Colby McKinney.
And what club will you be president of, Colby?
Smith County Noon Rotary, Tennessee.
Okay, can I ask you? You have a fan club. Can I ask you a personal question?
Sure.
How old are you?
24.
There was like a collective gasp from the room when you said 24 years old. A follow-up question, Colby, if you don't mind. How the hell did that happen?
I kind of got conned into it. I'm a local business owner, and I own Smith County Insider. It's an online media outlet in Smith County, kind of like an online newspaper, but we don't use print. We're all digital. So.
Yeah. Hang on one second. Newspapers, they used to be delivered to the house, and they open them up.
Right,
and
right.
you could classified ads and.
Right, I put that in my dog's kennel now. So is that what you're talking about?
Come on, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to end with a good metaphor for Rotary and where we're going, ladies and gentlemen, and that's the best metaphor I can think of is newspapers to online, the old Rotary to the new Rotary, and these are the people that are going to take us there. Give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, okay. I had a sense like one of them was going to do a mic drop. Isn't that great? I love that, man. And here's another interesting part. This is psychology. Oh, thank you very much. You want to put him right up here? Thank you very much. My name's Michael Caruso.
Hi, Mike. I'm Mark.
Mark, what just happened?
I just became the president-elect of the Brentwood Morning Rotary Club.
We had a little incident, but Mark, if somebody give Mark a hand here, we'll get the drawing done. with a little accident. Bring them up. Bring the cards up if you didn't. If you still have cards, just bring them up right now and we'll get you into the contest. So we're going to get ready to say goodbye. Have you enjoyed my program today? Yeah. Okay. We want you to get charged up. I want you to remember two things. One is near term, the other one is long term. Near term, I'm here somewhere at about 4:30 for a hot topic on having fun with Rotary. We're going to give you tons of ideas, and it's not fun like crepe paper from the ceiling, happy talk fun. It's about efficiency fun. It's about getting stuff done fun, and you're going to really enjoy this program. And the second thing I want you to keep in mind is I have been honored with a speaking slot at the International Convention in Toronto. I'm told that there will be, and this is interesting because I know a lot of you are getting ready to do a lot of speeches and you're a little nervous about speaking, and I'll help you with that. This is what I do for a living. I teach presentation skills. I'm told that there will be 1,000 people or more in my room in Toronto. I love it. I'm good with this. And then they told me it will also be live streamed. Isn't that something? Rotary, man, it's got to love Rotary. It's a new frontier out there for Rotary. Can you help us do a drawing? Could you come up? Come on. We're doing a draw for the packet of books. We have a Rotary discount in the hallway with Chuck Barnett's going to help me in the hall. We'll sign the books for you in the hall and all weekend, actually. But I didn't bring a lot, so we usually sell out at Mid-South Pets. Rotary discount. Megan, what club are you with?
Lafayette, Tennessee.
Hey, all right. And what do you do for work?
Physical therapy.
All right. Some of these people are going to be able to use you about tomorrow afternoon.
Yes.
Okay. Would you please do the drawing for the prize? And what's that say?
Patrick Trammell.
Where's Patrick Trammell or Trammell? Patrick, come on up and we'll give this to you. Thank you very much, everybody. We good? Oh, thank you, Bobby. Come on, man. What happened just now? Did you pick up a girl on the way? It's not that kind of club.
I found a friend.
Congratulations. For you, I'll sign this for you right afterward. Thank you very much. What club?
Fort Payne, Alabama. It's the public speaking.
We're going to get that to roll off the tongue in no time, man. What do you do for work?
I'm a hospital administrator.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Congratulations. You're going to be a great president. Thank you. We're going to turn it back to Bobby. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a little soundbite for you because soundbite's really important in psychology. You want to get people to take an interest in Rotary. Use this great quote from Bob Hope. Bob Hope. He said, "If you don't have charity in your heart, you have the worst kind of heart trouble." Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, sir. A little gift from us. Appreciate it.